So the best set I've found for skunk is a nice fox set at an intersection.
The idea is just to show you some of the differences. Now these are all stock traps. I'm not going to do modifications to them. I don't do modifications to my traps, aside from maybe night latching them. The first thing I'm going to touch on is the actual build of the traps, the durability of them basically, how they're put together, maybe some of the pluses and the minuses. Let me just start with the chains. So I'll start with the Bridger Dogless number 2. The chain is, I think it's the standard that Bridger's putting on now. Really heavy duty. I think that's a number 2 chain. So it crimps right down on itself, as it should be pretty easy to bed and everything. But heavy duty swivels on them. Again, this is base plated. So right out of the box, you can take this and bury it. You can get the oil off of it first, of course, but they really are just ready to use without modifications. But the chain itself is built really durable. And the normal number 2 dogged, so it has the dog on it, it has the same exact chain as what the Dogless does. So the MBs are a little bit different. You'll notice the chain is significantly shorter. And of course, MB has their patented crunch-proof swivels there. And the swivels here, they kind of set the standard, I think, with these swivels here. I think they do a good job. But shorter chain, still same thing, base plated. But we'll stick with the chain just for now. But again, there's nothing to complain about with them chains. Either one of them is going to hold just fine. We're not trying to tow a D9 with these things. So they're going to work for anything that you put them through as far as trapping their species. It should hold up to them. And the 450, same crunch-proof swivel. The chain's a little bit lighter, but again, that's going to hold up to anything that, within reason, that you catch out there in the field. I did want to mention the springs. Whenever I actually set these, again, it's the first time I'm setting them, and the Bridgers, they set like really smooth. That was easy functioning levers that went right down, dropped they just set easy. The MB 550, it was a bit of a beast for me. I think that's for 2 reasons. One is the levers on the Bridgers are nice. There's actually a good spot there you can get the heel of your hands on. So when you're pushing the paddle down, there's plenty of surface area with it. The MBs seem to have a shorter spot right there. And I can hold them up and you can actually see. So I'm just talking about this end little bit right there. But the MBs have about a 1/4 inch more than what, or excuse me, the Bridgers have about a 1/4 inch more than the MBs. So the Bridgers are a little bit easier to set because you have more leverage, if you would, get your hands on it easier. Which may come into play if you're setting a couple hundred traps or something. I don't know. The second thing is the springs. Actually pushing down the levers on the MBs was a lot more difficult to do. It leads me to believe that the springs are made out of something more just a higher quality spring steel or something like that. And I bet you that'd be true if I'd look it up. And I did take the time to actually count the rings on the springs. The Bridgers actually have 9 rings worth of spring, whereas the MB only has 8. So it's less rings, yet it's still a stronger, it's just got a stronger tension to it, if you will. So overall, I think the MBs probably just have more of a strength as far as hold power, if you will. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I think those springs are actually tougher.
First set this morning, I got my Bridger Dogless here all pulled right up out of the dirt, and I'm a little frustrated when this happens because it makes me feel like I did something wrong. Like, how did an animal step on that and not get caught? But on closer inspection, and this is important to do too, is I found a couple deer tracks right here within a foot or 2 of it, and little scuff marks right here that looks like it could be a deer track as well. But anyways, right over here, some white fur. And I'm not an expert on fur, but that sure does look like deer hair. So it looks to me like what happened was I almost caught a deer. We pulled that out, moved it over here 2 feet. So the deer probably got caught, jumped up in the air, and was off again. So these traps ain't quite gonna hold a white-tailed deer, but they're not supposed to either. So that's okay.
Let's talk about the pans. I heard a little bit of talk about the Dogless pans and the pan itself in here. I heard that people were having trouble with the pan actually bending. So they'd catch an animal and they'd get it torqued up and it would actually bend. I can't imagine. It looks like a heavy-duty pan, and when I compare it to the original dogged Bridger, and you're not going to be able to see that as well as I can, but I'm trying to show you. But this one right here, the original number two dogged Bridger, it's a thinner pan than what the Dogless is. So it seems to me like the Dogless would be stronger than the standard, if you will. But I have heard that they had, I heard that from 2 people, as a matter of fact, that they actually had troubles with them bending. Even if it does bend, I don't think it's a big deal because you can just torque it back into place. But I imagine you could, if you do, any modifications, you could reinforce it if you wanted to. I'm not looking to do any reinforcements. I like to buy my traps and then use them. And if I can't do that, I'll probably just buy a different trap. So manufacturers need to up their game if we need to buy their traps and then do something to them so they work. But to each his own. You might have some personal preference, something you want to change. But I trap with stock traps, with standards. The pan on the MB is, it looks like it's the exact same width as the pan on the Bridger Dogless. I've never heard any problems coming from anybody about the MB's bending. I've never heard that before, but it looks like the same thing as the number 2 Dogless. So if I've never heard about it from the MB's, I'm surprised that I heard anything about the Dogless. And the same thing with the 450. It's just a smaller, it's a more of a narrowed pan, but still it's the same width. The pan itself, the thickness of it is the same on both of them. The dog itself, I'm talking about the pans, but the dogs on them, I've been talking about the Dogless Bridger number 2. One of the biggest questions I can already hear is why a dogless trap. I think probably the biggest reason for dogless that I've come up with, me personally, just my opinion, is I like simple systems. And that's one less thing to go wrong. So I have, the dogs, like say on my Dukes here. If the dog's under there and stuff, that's fine. But the dog can slide back and forth. So there's a little bit of play there. So I need to be aware of that when I'm setting it. It's easy to bend a dog because it's loose, whether you bend it or the animal bends it whenever he's caught in it. It's basically just one more piece of, one more mechanism, something that's moving. It's something can be damaged by it. The Bridger, number 2, the standard dogged Bridger, the dog itself, it looks very similar to the dog of the Dukes. So same design, kind of. And the only thing I can think that's really different is just the length of it. The Bridger is just a little bit longer, maybe 1/4 inch. But as far as I can tell, it's the same thing. It might be a little bit different steel, though, but same design is what I'm saying. So the Dogless just uses the actual, the end of the pan, and there's a little edge there. Now, I did notice this as one of my personal complaints about traps is how much play there is in it. And I don't know if you can see that, but I'm moving that trap, or that pan, quite a bit. And it's not firing. So that's one of those things, one of those modifications you see almost every Bridger Dogless owner. It's one of the first things they do. There's nothing to it. You just file down the very edge of the pan. It's at the Dogless part right there, the part that's holding on to the jaw. You just file a little bit off of it. It makes it more of a hair trigger. It doesn't have to travel as far. before the trap is sprung. So it's not a big deal to fix that one. I don't think that really qualifies as a modification, though it is. I think even a teenager could probably do that one just fine. So most of us should be all right too. You can night latch the Bridger number 2, the standard dog one, but it does not come night latched. The MBs do. The Bridger Dogless does. So they are night latched. They're ready to go. But the standard dogged Bridger number 2, you will have to add the night latch on it if it's something you want to do. But the other thing too is when we're talking about dogs and the pans and stuff is pan tension. One of the things that I've heard people complaining about the MBs is there's no way to adjust the pan tension on these. And from what I can tell, of course, there's no way to adjust the pan tension. Now they say when they send them out of the box, the pan tension on them is what it's supposed to be. And the different models have different pans, different tensions, like how much pressure it takes till the animal sets it off. The reason that's important is you don't want to catch, a squirrel. You don't want to catch a mouse when if it runs across your trap. Whatever. You're not trying to catch little critters. You're trying to catch whatever your target species is. So if a coyote or a fox steps on it, or a raccoon, of course you want to get them, but they're going to be a heavier animal. They're not going to weigh, less than a pound, or, even 4 pounds. Like say a house cat walks over your set. If you have these things tuned right, you can absolutely set that tension where a house cat will not set off your trap. And you'll instead just catch your target animals, which is something I encourage every trapper to do, because no one likes to catch cats. I haven't met a trapper, anyways, that likes to catch cats. It's a nuisance, it's a problem, and it might be somebody's pet too. So we want to show the respect and non-targets. So that helps too. So adjust your pan tension, and that's a real concern with the MBs, because you cannot adjust the pan tensions on the MBs, but most other traps you can.
I missed something. I can't quite make this out. That's my little backing there. It's not much. Little scent stick sticking up there. This is set on a location. I think we got coyote. Back in the woods here. Right down a logging trail. Comes to a point, and there's three roads that kind of meet right here. This one extends on behind me, and then there's another one that comes up from the left, from a field, from a farm. Anyways, this logging road is nice and flat right inside this ridge, and you can just make out some prints right here on the edge of my lever. I can't figure out what those are. And if you all help me out, I'd appreciate it. And that one, not really sure about that either. Just not very well defined prints. I'm going to move the leaves here in just a second. But I'm not sure if anybody can help me figure out what this is. Pick this up, see if there's anything under here. Looks like a print right there. And I'll put my hand down here for comparison. You can kind of see how big it is. So right there's the track. Right there's a track. Right there's a track. So the footprints look big enough to be I won't say anything because I don't want to make anybody biased, but right up here, it looks like there's some tracks in here too. Some disturbance. And I don't think that's the animal. I think that was me making the set. But nothing real defined. A lot of muck. Not much to go off of here. That looks a little packed there. It looks like you just missed the pan is all. It just looks like it came across this way and missed that pan on my MB. 550. Well, I don't think it's a problem with the pan. I'm sure it fires. Seems to be alright to me. Just showered me in mud, but maybe last night it was froze up more. I don't know. Anyway, if y'all can help me out with that, I'd appreciate it. I'll post that video and maybe y'all could tell me what I missed.
So, practical application. When you actually bury these guys in the dirt, something you have to be thinking about is the size of the trap. These outside spread here is 6 inches, which is considerably larger than the Duke 1.5 that I've been using. The MBs are about 5.5 inches at their widest point. I say widest point because these have a bit of a taper to them, kind of a parabolic kind of shape to them. The Bridgers are more squared out on the edges. You got some sharp angles. That's part of the reason people like the Bridgers. I think they offer more catch space, more reach whenever they actually shut. So when the pan is depressed, it should be a higher catch on the animal, as opposed to a Bridger, which might be down here. Compared to the Minnesota brand, the MB might be down here. The Bridger will be up here. I'm being dramatic, of course, you understand, but the idea is it should give you a higher catch simply because of the jaw spread. Now, states have laws on how wide a trap can be, so just make sure you check that out. It should be in your regs book whenever you get your license. Target animals. I would tell you that if you're out there trying to trap for raccoon, I would say that your Bridger number 2s, your MB 550's, probably not the right trap for you to be using. So you want a 450 or the Duke 1.5s. They work pretty good for them. They certainly worked for me. The other thing to consider, and this kind of goes back to the pan tension thing, is non-target animals. And I'm bringing that up because it's a concern with me. When I'm trapping, all of my trapping is private land. I avoid public land like the plague. But the problem with trapping on the private land is you got to do what the property owner wants. You don't want to offend anybody. And the reason I'm bringing that up with non-target animals is they probably have pets. In my experience, if you're trapping on property, that property has pets because they have land, and people who have land tend to have animals, it seems. If nothing else, you're on a farm. You got farm cats and things like that. So pay attention and adjust your pan tension to apply to your target species, and avoid your non-target species, things like cats. And not much you can do, I guess, with the dogs. If there's a dog out there, he'll probably get into it. But chances are, if you tell the property owner that you're trapping, they'll probably keep their dog on a chain for a few days while you're trapping there. Offset jaws is another thing to consider. The MBs have an offset to them. The Dogless number 2 Bridgers have an offset jaw to them. And you can get the dogged Bridgers in an offset as well. I think if I was going with these Bridger number 2s with the dog on them, I think that I can control my pan tension enough that I'm not too concerned with. If I do catch a non-target animal, it's going to be limited. It's not going to happen too often, but just something to keep in mind too. The offset jaws will give you less leg and paw damage, and so when you do order your traps, regardless of which brand you decide on, something to consider. And I'm going to be non-biased. I'm not going to tell you which traps to buy. And with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. God bless America. We'll see you on the trap line. So it's snowing this morning. We got about an inch last night. And I came out to the set this morning and had Mr. Skunk there waiting for me. But we got him out of the trap. That's actually the first time I've ever released a skunk. So I just used my coat as a barrier between me and the skunk. Same thing I do for cats. I figured maybe he had a easy temper about it. So, but I got it done. got my coat up there and just stayed behind it. And put the coat over the foot in the trap. And just when I had the foot on my side of the trap, I just released the levers. Little skunk ran off. Went down a hole that's about 15 yards away. I didn't even see it. So, Mr. Skunk's back home. I'm on my way to work. We're probably going to get another inch or two here today, so be contending with a little bit of snow here for the next couple of days.
Anyways, today's the last day of the season. I'm pulling all the traps, and it's been a good one. And thank you all for being along on the line with me. Those of you that actually met up with me and rode along in the pickup with me, checking the line. I send my best to y'all. Nathan, congratulations on getting married, and I'm sure the future's going to be very bright for y'all. And you just keep me in the loop. Let me know how you're making out on the line, and the rest of y'all as well. So till next year, get them traps ready, get them all prepped, get all your equipment ready, and then next year you go out and hit it strong. And until then, have a great summer, and I'll see you on the trap line.